Okay, so sorry about that. My camera died. So hopefully this is kind of working out. As I said, the camera might die again. I've got it plugged in as I'm recording now, which is probably what I should have done from the beginning. That would have made more sense. So where was I? Yeah, so I think you could, using this faux leather and the foam and the same sort of stuff I was talking about, I think you could make this very, very cheaply. I'm pretty sure about it. That's not something I've tried. Maybe that'll be my next attempt. I do like the quality of real leather, and to be honest with you, it is cheap enough that I think you could probably do that. Yeah. Man, that's a bit gutting that it failed. But anyway, we'll see. But getting back to where I was, I've been... so using this leather and the foam, I've been able to make some nice lamellar plates. So what I'm working on at the moment is, for the next part of my monstering kit that I wanted to do stuff with, is to try and make something for when I'm wearing my Orc mask. So I recently bought this pretty boy here, which is an Orc mask. And as you can see, I wear glasses, and wearing glasses and wearing an Orc mask is a big challenge. The ones that PD give you, they're fine. I'll give you a close-up of him actually, just so you can if you see this guy on the field, you'll be like, oh, I know that guy. What an arsehole. Kill that one. Yeah, so that's me. Yeah, I think the ones they give you, the PD give you, are perfectly fine. But after a while, putting on other people's masks, and especially if you've got sort of unusual sort of hair conditions. I've got a friend who's got dreadlocks, like a really thick amount of dreadlocks, and it's hard. He has to find like a mask that has a hole in the back, so he can kind of thread them all through. It looks badass when he does it, but you're dishing around through the box trying to find that. Yeah, if you're a glasses wearer like me, I didn't mean just to put the middle finger up at all of you guys. That was me pointing on my glasses. But anyway, if you're a glasses wearer like me, it poses even more problems. I think just you're constantly running around, your glasses are steaming up, you can't really see what you're doing. It's a bit uncomfortable. The pressure on your glasses isn't quite right because the mask's not made for it. So in the long run, it was just like one of the things I really, really wanted to do was go to LarpCon and buy myself a mask and actually have the opportunity to try them on and pick the one that worked best for me. What I found worked really well is getting one with a narrow ridge on the nose, like that. I think that worked pretty well. So I've enlarged the holes for the eyes. Maybe I should put this guy on. Should I put this guy on? I'll put this guy on. Blech. Normally I'd have some kind of mirror to help me make this a bit better. Okay. So hopefully you can see that this sort of fits me a lot better. And it works quite well. I wish I could see myself at the same time that I'm showing you. But it works well on the bridge of the nose. I've got much, much better peripheral vision. It's comfortable around the eyes. I haven't got anything protruding into my eyes. It can kind of slot around the ears. I'm actually going to do something with that. It's just nice to wear. So it obviously, because I'm not playing an Orc, I don't have to worry about having these kind of hero masks, which I think present slightly different challenges. I got this from Mandala Studios at LarpCon. And sorry, just take that off. Yeah, I was able to try the one I wanted. They gave me the advice that they thought about a balaclava one was generally better for people with glasses. I would defer to their judgment. I think that it works really well for me. I've customized, let's say, it a little bit, but it's just a really nice fit. And I think these are sort of try before you buy kind of things, and I think that worked really well. I think that worked really, really well. So that's something I've been doing. But as part of that, I do worry about wearing my glasses and about how I'm going to protect them and what exactly I'm going to do. So I wanted to think about trying to make a helmet. So what I've done is print off a very simple. It's kind of like a pattern from eviltedsmith.com, which it's kind of like a what do you call him? The guy from X-Men who has the helmet on. It's completely left my brain. Magneto. It's kind of like his helmet, but just a real simple helmet that you can plop on. And I'm going to put that on top when I'm wearing my orc mask, and hopefully that's going to come around the sides. That'll give me more protection around the edges of the glasses, because I have had once before the swing of a sword, and obviously the movement of your head, and it catches you just here, and this kind of L where your glasses meet the lenses meet the limb, and if it just catches you on that edge there, your glasses just go flying, and I just saw mine just fly away. We basically had to stop the immediate area around where I was just so I could literally go and grab my glasses. If you can wear lenses, probably wearing lenses is best. I have like really sensitive eyes, and basically I've never found wearing lenses works for me. It's really uncomfortable for me. I get quite a lot of irritation in my eyes. So yeah, it's glasses or nothing. Normally when you're playing your character, you've got a lot better kind of motion, and I play as an archer anyway, which kind of naturally draws me back from the front line. So I don't have to worry that much normally about my glasses. But when I'm playing an orc, I use it as an opportunity to try out different types of combat that I enjoy. I don't want to play as an archer when I'm monstering. I want to go ambidextrous and use two weapons, or I want to use go sword and shield or something like that. Just try out different options. I mean, like, it's an opportunity, and I think that's the great thing about monstering. By the way, for context, those of you that don't know what I'm talking about there, when you go to Empire, basically there's the social contract that one day, if you go to one of the big battles, you go as your character, and the other day you go and do what we call monstering, which is basically playing the opposite side, the bad guy side. Bad guy. Anyway, that's a different topic. But so in that instance, you're getting yourself an orc mask, normally one of the ones that PD provides you. If you've got your own, then that's awesome, obviously. And you head out and do that. So you have these opportunities to try out different things. Like, why would you necessarily? And maybe if you enjoy what you're doing, then great. But for me, I always think it's really nice to just be able to cut loose and just have like one day I can be in the big battle, be two swords, a sword and shield, or whatever it is, the combo that I'm going for, and just try something different, try something fun. Just get killed a whole lot and respawned and killed again. It's a good way of doing things, and it works for me. But the risk is that if you're wearing glasses, of course, your glasses get tonked a lot more. So I want to try and get this helmet that I'm working on to essentially protect the edges of my glasses, as say that L where the limbs meet the lenses, and sort of I make something that sort of matches up with the orc mask a bit. I think the other thing is, unfortunately, as a glasses wearer, you have this problem that they do sort of tend to look a little bit out of character, and there's not a lot you can do about it. When you see these wonderful photo vistas, I'm sure we've all had it, all glasses wearers will know what I'm talking about. Really, generally speaking, it just, you always kind of look around and you're just kind of like, if only I wasn't wearing glasses. You know what I mean? I think I could probably look quite a bit cooler maybe if I wasn't wearing glasses. I mean, in my instance, it's not exactly a Superman transformation, but, I don't know. So yeah, so I'm working right now on a helmet that is going to be to go with my orc mask. Now, Evil Ted, by the way, you can find a really good video that shows how quickly you can knock one of these together. He basically has this free pattern that you can print out. You can literally download and print this one for free. Massive shout out to them. And he's got another pattern on there if you want one with like sort of bat wings or dragon wings and like a thing on it and all this kind of stuff. And they're made really to be sort of using high dense foam as like the basis of it. And essentially a heat gun, and you kind of cut them and mold them into shape and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, they. Sorry, I just got a bit distracted by something. That's okay. Yeah, so I didn't really want to do that. What I wanted to do was make a helmet that has like a continuous leather shape to it. So what I'm essentially doing is this is a cheaper brand, an even cheaper, if you can believe it, brand of foam that actually I'll show this one's probably a better example. An even cheaper brand of foam that is 3mm thick, self-adhesive. Hey Lloyd, how you doing, man? 3mm thick, self-adhesive, and yeah, and essentially lets me sort of attach it all together. On top of that, then I've got this very thin layer of foam that I got from Amazon, which is actually the one I recommended to you, Lloyd, which I think maybe was a slight mistake. So I'm sorry about that. I think the Hobbycraft stuff is probably maybe slightly better. It's thicker. I think I maybe sent you the wrong link on that, but I think that stuff will still work for what I was suggesting. So apologies. But yeah, so what I've got here is this sort of thinner foam then which has a much more kind of here it is, a much more kind of nice, smooth, matte quality to it that is a lot more forgiving than this stuff, which you can see is kind of much more, it's thicker, but it's it's more like polystyrene. But the benefit of this stuff is it was like a pack of 10 for £3, I think it was. So I was like, blammo, I'm going to get a whole bunch of that. So I did. So I think ideally I would still go for the Hobbycraft foam that I got. It's just better all round. It is more expensive. It's £1 a sheet. But I think that's probably the way to go. And I think what I've tried to do, if I was to do this again, that's probably what I'd go for. I literally ran out making my monstering armor. Sorry, Lloyd, you missed out, I think, on me on the previous part of the stream, because this crashed and we started up again. I didn't crash, my camera died. But I was kind of going through my monstering armor that I was working on. But essentially now I want to work on a helmet for my my orc character. And so how that's going to be done is essentially I've put this kind of foam all together. Sorry, dyslexia strikes again. And that gives me a nice layer. And then this is going to be possible to sort of put on. And it will basically, once it's all attached together, it will let me basically make a helmet. And then the cool thing is I'm going to be able to peel off all this self-adhesive layer, and then I'm going to basically just layer it up with leather and then stitch that roughly together. So it'll give this kind of look of... Hey Sam, how you doing, man? Yeah, so I'm making, this is for my monstering armor. So yeah, and I'm going to kind of layer it up with leather. It's going to be this kind of red leather stuff that I had before. There it is. How you doing, Sam? You doing all right? And, oh, by the way, I did get your letter, by the way, which was super awesome and mega schemy, and I will reply. How that's going to work in the current situation, I don't know, but we'll sort something out. Winky face. But yeah, so I'm going to then kind of layer it up in this kind of red leather, which is, again, I mentioned in the previous part of the video, but this is actually just offcuts from a leather supply, a leather sofa place that essentially they just make these 2 kilogram bags of leather offcuts, which I think that's about £5-6. Like it's a super ridiculous deal. Like this bag is like a fraction of it, and it's just full of like all of the red leather bits. I had literally had them all spread out on my floor, and I was just like putting them in the sort of roughly color groupings, but you get a lot of leather. And then the idea is this is all going to get sort of like laid on top. I'm going to kind of cut it into sort of slightly rough shapes. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it. Like, this is all going to be a learning process. I honestly have no idea. This might be a complete failure. I'm expecting it to be a complete failure, but that's kind of why you do these things. But yeah, I quite like the idea of, I mean, again, this is literally just what I'm thinking right now, but I just quite like the idea of kind of layering up like some kind of like mismatch kind of like, I don't know, just kind of like pattern of overlapping leather that has kind of been hobbled together. I think it will give it a really nice look. I'm hoping it will. And what then I might do is I might take some of these plates that I cut for my lamlar armor, which are essentially these are made using self-adhesive foam. And again, this was in the previous part of the video. But that's then been basically attached to the leather and cut into shape to make lamlar plates that kind of look like this, and are all attached together to ultimately make something like this. So that's one side, and this is the other side. And then, whoa. These super sexy shoulders, if I may say so myself. So that all strapped together to make the armor. But as an offcut of that, I have a bunch of these little plates that are hopefully all going to be able to get attached together. So I don't know, maybe what I'm going to do is like have those as like crowning pieces. Maybe like they'll be kind of going up like in some kind of pattern like that. I can't see if I'm making a stupid face right now, but you guys get the idea. It's kind of going to go like that maybe. I have a whole stack of these. So that might do. How many plates for the body? Let's do some counting. Let's do some maths actually. I think it's many. So there's 28 per row on the front torso piece that then shifts into 24 on these kind of upper bits. And this is basically to give you the bit that's sort of there, that kind of shapes around the body. So I've got 5 layers of 28, 2 layers of 24. Let's whip the old calculator out because maths is not my strong suit. 28 times 5. Yeah, so 188 plates for this front panel, and similar for the back. The back has this rather sexy, if I may say so myself, kind of central piece down the middle, which I wanted to do like out of red leather. The rest is all done in different shades of brown. But I like the idea of having this kind of like spine of red leather, like a kind of a bloody spine kind of thing. I thought that was pretty sweet. How will this all work? I don't know. Again, all of this is a bit weird and experimental. I kind of went for it slightly in the previous part of the video, but basically, yeah, this is just, I don't know if you can see very clearly. Essentially, there we go. These are cut pieces of just sofa quality leather that's been bought real cheap, and then using foam self-adhesive sheets stuck to it, cut to shape. I think it's going to work. I think it does work. Like this is strong as shit. It's not going anywhere. it's all sewn together using the Lamlar pattern that I've kind of done. So yeah, total plates. It's a lot of work. You're looking, what is that? Yeah, you're looking about 376 is what the maths tells me. Plates for the front and the back, and then with the shoulders, there's more there. So let's call it somewhere in the low 400s for the whole garb. I think it's going to work pretty well. I run out a little bit, and I'm actually waiting for a delivery of more leather because I want some more brown leather, because all I've got left is my red leather now and some other shades. I've actually got some really, really nice green leather, but that's not going to go with this build. And some kind of very pale beige, super beige, sort of leather as well, which is going to be another project I might do something fun with. I think that might work quite well as a contrasting colour somewhere, but not for this build. But that is definitely getting saved. I've got a little bit of blue leather, and all of this came in those 2 kilogram packets that I got. So yeah, definitely you can do a lot with this method, I think, and it's super cheap. I couldn't give you an exact costing for how much this armor probably has cost me to make, but you're looking at maybe like, let's say 20 quid for the foam, and probably about £12 for the leather. So that's 32 right there. And then the paracord, these are £10 per reel. These are 100 meter long reels. Wow. So, and you don't need obviously this much, but I buy in bulk. So yeah, you kind of do the maths on that, and you're looking at like a suit for like 50 quid. I think that's pretty reasonable, right? If you try to head out and get yourself a Lamlar leather suit for 50 quid, I think you'd struggle. And all fair play, obviously this isn't true thick leather all the way through. This is foam and shitty leather. Well, it's actually good quality sofa leather, but it's kind of stuff that's been bonded together. So I think this is going to be pretty cheap, and I think it's going to work. And especially for Monstering Kit, which is basically going to get donned for one time. Although, as I said in the previous part of the video, I do think that maybe this might end up being my alternate characters. If Talis ever dies, who knows how that could happen, Sam? If Talis ever dies, I think my next character could come in this armor. I like the idea of playing someone a bit more rough, a little bit maybe slightly less fancy than Talis, but we'll see. Although I do like the fanciness. The fancy stuff is really cool. It's kind of cool to sort of engage in the whole fancy Navarre aspect and see where that goes. Damn straight, Talis he's not just self-important, he's just straight up important. But but anyway, so I'm going to have a go working on this helmet. You've probably seen that, by the way. I'm quite fortunate. I've got a little sort of setup here that lets me kind of do all this stuff. When I'm doing my Lamlar, being able to sort of just like reel this off is like super nice. This is all just IKEA stuff. But this has been pretty awesome because threading together that Lamlar takes time. And that's the thing, right? Lamlar is really easy to make. I think it looks really good. It's actually quite cheap and cost effective, but it takes a lot of time. And I think you have to be willing. It's not even difficult, right? That's the thing. I mean, a moron like me can do it. But you have to sort of put the time in. And you're going to be sitting there threading plates together, and that is like several evenings. You're putting together the making all of those leather plates is a long job. So yeah, you're just basically, if you're the type of person who has a fair bit of free time, or you enjoy the process, which I personally do. I find the process really rewarding. It's just kind of nice and chill and relaxing. Like I can sit here on some evenings, just watch some YouTube videos or whatever. And my little kind of, we'll call it a man cave, but essentially this is the cat room. And I just kind of am an occupant in here that they kind of like tolerate. But Yeah, I found the whole process like really, really kind of relaxing, rewarding. Have some music on, chill, work through a project, all that kind of stuff. I'll kind of show it off again, mainly just because I like showing it off. But like making my steel set of Lamlar basically gave me a lot of confidence to just kind of go and do a lot of stuff like this. And obviously, one of the benefits of that was having those D plates that I could then use to make the patterns with. So I have like loads and loads of these D plates left over, so I could just essentially trace them. Oh no, the shoulders are on it. Oh, they're hit. That's the shoulders. So it's just probably how I was holding it. No, so there are two rows of when it's on, it kind of sticks out a bit more. Bear in mind, I'm not very broad-shouldered. I am but puny man. On me, it looks quite big. I think if you're maybe doing it again, maybe 3 and then 2 rather than 2 then 2. I don't know. This monstering set of armor at the moment, it's going to be 2 on each side. Looks like. So it's going to be kind of like this, which I think that's a bit weak sauce. That's a bit weak sauce, isn't it, guys? That's pretty weak. So I think it's going to be what I want to do is have 2 rows. Yeah, I mean that's just much more meaty. I mean that's what you want. You don't want that. I mean that looks like someone dribbled down your shoulder with a bit of leather. You want something that's like, actually substantial. Anyway, so that's kind of where the monster armor is. I'm just waiting for more of that brown leather to arrive. No idea how that's gonna pan out. Obviously, with things that are going on when that leather is going to get delivered. So I'm moving on to building the helmet. So as I said before, took Evil Ted's pattern. You just print this out. It's just A4 sheets that you stick together. When I come to using patterns, I really like to make patterns that aren't just one-offs. So I basically I put it all together, and then I've essentially used. Sorry for the noise. I've used sellotape, just fixed sellotape, and just I did all the pages, and essentially just made it so it's all nice and glossy and reusable. So I can basically do all the different shapes. So essentially, and this is all very obvious, but when you're making any 3D shape, it can be kind of taken down into a 2D shape. So this shape you're looking at here is essentially this, but then it's essentially sort of, you see these registration marks? Let's see if I can show them. See the kind of notches? Those are registration marks, and what they help you do, and the reason they're great, is that when you're bending this together, they give you somewhere to sort of keep the foam together as you bend it. And that just basically makes sure that you're kind of not slipping as you're making the shape, and sort of, because if you don't have them and you don't follow them, you're just doing it by eye, you can easily kind of end up adding a slight sort of torque to one side of the build. I'm talking about this as if I know what I'm doing, guys. I don't know what I'm doing. Like that's the thing. I actually don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, yeah, have a good one, Lloyd. Have a good one. But I think the idea is that I've taken that cheap ass foam, covered it in this sort of slightly nicer foam. Now I've taken now I've taken. Oh, that's all right, Phil. Don't worry about it. So when all of this is done, I'm going to just rip off all of this self-adhesive protection stuff, and I'm just going to slam some leather on this. So I think probably enough waffling. You guys have listened to me a fair bit waffle on. I'm going to see if I can actually build a side of it. So the next thing I've obviously made that central piece, and I've got a whole bunch of other pieces that again come from the same pattern that need to be put together. This is a real simple helmet to build, by the way. You've basically got 3 pieces that make the whole thing up. One of these, one of these, and one of these. These 2 pieces, you just flip them over because it's symmetrical, so blammo, right? And then the idea is that this kind of shape can then just be pulled together, and that will give that sort of, when that comes together, that will give it a curve, like so. So obviously when Ted's doing this, he's doing this using high dense foam and a heat gun, and then that he kind of can texture the foam and stuff. I'm really just using the foam, and again, this might completely fail. I'm expecting it to fail, but I'm really just doing this as a test to, because I want it to be leather, right? I don't want it to be, well, firstly, I don't have a heat gun on me, or not. I'd have to go to my parents, which obviously isn't an option right now. So I'm sort of stuck with the stuff that I've got right now. And also I want this kind of leather helmet that has a different sort of quality to it, I think. And because I've got the self-adhesive layer, I'm thinking that when I've got all this attached together, it will hopefully hold itself together. Right, so I have cut now these shapes. These shapes out. And again, they all still have these self-adhesive backings on. And I need to kind of thread them together. What I'm going to do is I've got some of this nice sort of sexier foam, and that's going to be cut into strips that are basically going to give me a kind of reinforcing layer on the inside. Don't know if you can see that little strip, that strip that's running down the middle. So that reinforcing layer is basically then is what actually is holding it together right now. So trying to use everything. So I'm going to use this to essentially try and pinch this together. We'll see how it goes. Expect failure. So this stuff is great. It just peels off. I mean, you're basically just dealing with sellotape here. I'm not sure if I should put this really close to camera so you guys can see my fumblings, or if I should just concentrate on what I'm doing. Probably better to concentrate on what I'm doing, but see, I'm pinching it together, then sort of pressing it down. Yeah, that came out all right. So obviously this is going to be the inside of the helmet. So you're not going to see this. This isn't going to be a thing. That's going to be the outside of the helmet, which obviously doesn't look like a lot now. I have a bit of an overlap there. That's going to get trimmed. Ooh. So I have my fancy little fabric scissors here, which I ended up building a crappy little sheath for. Anyway, so these will get trimmed. Probably shouldn't use fabric scissors on foam. Like basically, this goes against everything I think I've told people to do, which is not probably a good way of doing things. Like your fabric scissors really should only ever touch fabric. You shouldn't be using them for cutting paper or anything like that. But we're making all kinds of errors here. Okay. So I try and keep my fabric scissors really sharp as well. So that's one side. Now what I need to do is do the other side. So same thing. So when I'm doing these kind of strips, what I'm essentially doing is like a super lazy way of measuring them. I literally just take my ruler and, because I don't even bother measuring it, I just lay it down and I'm like, the width of this ruler looks about enough width for me. So, where's my pencil gone? There we go. By the way, this room is like super messy, like the worst. Like off camera is a disaster zone. Like, it's just... Again, you shouldn't be using fabric scissors to cut this. You should not do that. Okay. Yes, to save myself just wasting a whole bunch, I'm just going to measure roughly where the end is, put a little mark down, and I can cut that. I don't bother to measure, I'm just going to cut it rough. I think this is going to work, guys, but I think you might be also watching a quite hilarious failure in process. The Bob Ross. Oh man. Phil just posted up an icon, emoji, whatever the fuck you call them, thing of Bob Ross. Yeah, I wish. Cool. Right, so that's those two done. The other thing is, obviously normally this would be heat gunned because this whole pattern is designed to be heat gunned. So it's really designed to actually have a lot more bend in it than what I've managed to achieve here. That's where I think things are going to actually break down. I think that's where this will actually be a bit of a disaster, but we'll see. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, fuck it. So what I'm looking at with these side panels, thinking I want to have one continuous piece of reinforcing leather foam that's going to span on the inside. It's going to span on the inside, basically here, and join it onto here, That'll kind of link it all together, and this will kind of roll around, and that'll pull it tight, and that's what's going to give it the shape. So it's either that, or I do two pieces. I think maybe two pieces will give me more control over it. Maybe even three. By that, what I mean is, if you look at the shape, the internal shape, it kind of, if I do one long piece, firstly it's going to be getting another sheet of this out, which I don't know why I'm so picky about, but meh. But I think you can kind of see these kind of natural lines, and I think that's what I'm going to follow instead. So I'm going to do the essentially 2 or 3 inch kind of sections that I'm going to kind of make kind of strips for, and they're going to essentially be on the inside to hold all this together. That's kind of the idea. We'll see how it goes. So again, just going to use the width of the ruler. I'm going to do a couple of strips now. Really good point about Bob Ross. Like, what a legend! I think everybody knows he's a legend. I mean, yeah, super cool. Like a lot of it's kind of like I used to have a thing where it's like it would be Bob Ross and Patrick Moore. And they were like go to childhood kind of things. Like I was really into sort of sitting out with my telescope and me and my dad, looking at the stars and whatnot. And then that sort of seemed to marry really well with this kind of Bob Rossian, is that a thing? Bob Rossian approach to everything. And it kind of it built like a really chill environment and just a place where you could kind of like, I guess, meditate on the process of whatever it is that you're doing. And I think I used to draw a lot. I used to do a lot of art and stuff. And I went and studied graphic art design actually after a period in my life where I'd actually dropped out of doing a lot of creative things. I started using Photoshop when I was like 14. And that was when Photoshop was not super new, but it was like pretty new for like people outside the industry to use. I'm an old ass man right now, so this is quite a long time ago. And it sort of turned to this thing where I did a lot of stuff for myself, and I used to work a lot as in the modding community for computer games, actually as a texture artist. I'm not sure how interested any of you will be in what I'm saying, but yeah, essentially, I did that for a long time. Got pretty burnt out doing that after a while. Essentially, just a bunch of projects just never actually came to anything. And I think I just had this thing where I'm a perennial starter of projects who never actually finishes anything. And I think after a while that becomes quite a toxic marriage of things to have in your life, where you just, if you don't finish things, you start to lose interest in the act of creating. You need to actually produce something, put it out into the world. I think that's part of the whole process. If that's not part of it, if you're just kind of keeping it away, seeking this endless perfection, that I think is what I was trying to do. I think after a while that actually becomes quite a damaging thing, or it certainly did for me. I essentially just stopped doing any art or any crafts for a very long time. Very, very long time. I'm not really someone who believes heavily in like talent. I think that most of what we perceive as talent is essentially just reinforced stuff that happens from just existing and being repetition of doing a task. And I think that there are examples of people with certain advantages that help them do things. But broadly speaking, I think you just have to do something a lot to get good at it. And I dropped out of doing these things for a while. And I did used to be okay. I used to be an alright artist. But I just stopped, and I didn't engage that part of I kind of did in sort of my own kind of internal monologue. But yeah, I didn't really think about the actual process of creating. I thought more about other things. But part of that was then coming back and doing Larp, or a few other diversions. Like, for example, when I did pen and paper role playing as well, was really good and healthy for me. But coming and doing Larp has actually been really helpful because it's let me actually access that part of my mind again. That's not good. I don't want to do that. And actually try and put some of it into practice again. To actually try and be creative again, actually try and be productive again. And I think that's been really valuable. And that's been one of the best things actually that's come out of LARP, is actually it's changed my habits and made me do things and made me engage and actually challenge myself in ways that I had essentially allowed to atrophy for a long time. I don't know if I do it that way either. So what I'm debating now is how I'm going to build up these layers. I think maybe I just do them out of multiple tabs rather than strips like this. So I've got these kind of sticky tabs. So I'm kind of layering them up, and I think I'm maybe going to do lots of strips and then attach that rather than one continuous line. That might be a mistake. We'll find out. But yeah, so I went through a long time of essentially not creating anything, and then coming back and doing LARP. And one of the first things that obviously you realize when you start doing LARP is how expensive it is. And it really is expensive. It's prohibitively expensive if you want to achieve a certain aesthetic, which I did. I like going into things like that quite hard. So yeah, sort of sitting down and saying I was going to make my armor was important to me. Like, it let me kind of challenge myself again and do things again and think about things creatively again. So I think this is going to be coming off. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Lose that bit. Okay. Yeah, well, I think that's the other thing when you're making your own stuff or you're commissioning things, because there's loads of really talented people out there. When you're doing that kind of stuff, or if you find just the right thing as well, you go to thrift stores or whatever, and you find stuff out in the world that really kind of speaks to you. I think that really is valuable, and I think in terms of your character and all of that. But yeah, definitely in terms of my own creative output, and ultimately, I think there's a sort of a healthy thing in LARP just that comes from being creative and engaging that creative part of your mind, even if that's not being practically creative, even if that's not actually crafting anything or whatever. I think it comes from just the idea of engaging your mind in this sort of in fantasy, right? The active play, I always think, is very important. There's something innate about life that pursues play. Without getting too deep, I suppose that is fairly deep, but I think life just naturally pursues this quality, and not just for frivolous entertainment. I think there's actually a very valuable things to the human psyche that come from it. And I think you can find this in the animal kingdom as well. There's a really good book by, I'm going to totally murder his name. I think he's called John Bernaglau or something. It's about basically animals and different types of animals and sort of the play sort of mechanisms they have. And there's actually a surprising amount of animals, like even tadpoles have been observed engaging in activity that could be categorized as play. And it's it's pretty fascinating. And I think letting your mind go to that place where you think about your character, you think about this world they inhabit, and even if that's, even if you're only just doing things that are fairly sort of bland, like, well, not bland isn't a very fair way of saying it, but even if you're doing something like all you care about is going to the battles and socializing and meeting up with your mates and whacking a few orcs, like, I think it still, LARP takes you to sort of places where you still have to engage those parts of your brain from time to time in a really kind of healthy way. and it's been great for me. It's been really, really rewarding for me just to kind of go back to that part of myself that wants to engage. I'll keep that in case I need it. So what I'm essentially doing, guys, sorry about my big waffle there. What I'm essentially doing, guys, is I'm making these kind of tabs. Oh, go on for that's Phil. So I'm making these tabs. Oh man, it's hard to show. I keep doing this. My dyslexia shows through. I keep doing the whole thing where you look in the mirror and you point at the wrong, point in the wrong direction. But yeah, I'm making these tabs that are ultimately going to be the things that join onto this. Well, that's the idea. Oh, there we go. I think the really thing, the thing about doing a lot of this, sorry, not the really thing. I think the sounds like the true speak, but no, I think the thing as well about sort of doing any crafting for Larp is just kind of doing it at your own pace, doing understanding that giving yourself the time. I think the worst thing is when you're rushing. And I think you had a bit of this, Lloyd, when you were kind of making your armor. Just the pressure, the time pressure of having to get it done, I think, is quite a lot, actually. And it can turn that side of it, when you can get to that stage, can make it quite stressful. But I think outside of that, like, it can be pretty chill just to sort of sit there and while away a bit of time, working your mind through the problem of making something, especially if it's cheap. Yeah, time pressures are gone at the moment, so we can all just kind of chill out and sort of think about those projects, think about those things we want to add to our characters, think about how we want to sort of like represent ourselves. But yeah, I remember basically, it's weird, like a lot of doing things is procrastination, and I spend a lot of time looking at jobs to do for Larp. So this one, for example, I've had this sort of idea for a long time to do this. It's just getting the brain in the right place to actually do it. It's funny how it goes. It's interesting, as you do something, you kind of start seeing things that actually work quite nicely. So I think originally I was cutting each of these flaps that I'm making to actually shape and worrying about getting them so they're all uniform, but actually just overlapping them slightly, I quite like that. It's quick, it's easy, and I don't think it's going to make the bond any weaker as a result. So I think that's what I'm going to do. It's a lot easier. Again, all of this black stuff on the inside, that's all the inside, so yeah, I mean that's not a really good example, right? Phil just brought up the idea of making a book for military council and keeping things. And I think making my book was, which I've done previously. I should just say, like putting together books. I've got a whole stack of them up here, by the way, that aren't fully bound. But I made a book called The Alchemist at Ease. My character's an alchemist. And the basic idea is that he's written a book that is basically detailing all of the different alchemy recipes and so on. But I think you can just one thing I found, you can get these kind of and you can either just get some brown paper, but you can get these kind of pre-printed aged paper things. They're not cheap, but depending on the size of paper you need, you could just get a whole bunch of these. And then what I do is I tend to sort of rip the edges. So I kind of will lay it obviously flat down, put my ruler on, and then I'll kind of tear along the edge, sort of against the ruler, and that kind of gives me this kind of frayed look. And then if you just do a massive stack of those, say do it A6 size, so 4 pieces per 8 piece of A4, layer them up, and then you could just thread them together with a fairly easy binding. You might be able to do something quite nice with that. That's just a shitty idea. Or just it doesn't have to be sort of specially printed aged paper. And you can do that with any paper. Just get some old paper, something brown. I got whole reams of A4 kind of creamy paper that I think would look pretty nice if I kind of did that sort of effect. And I think you're constantly weighing up how worried are you? Who's going to see it? How much of a feature is it? That, and then weighing up practicality against other concerns. Obviously, if it's something you've actually got to write in, you want to make sure it's legible. And I think if people are new to LARP, and bear in mind I still classify myself as being pretty new, then I think the main thing is comfort, right? And understanding that you want to be comfortable when you go, and that there are sort of minimum requirements. And while obviously LARP kit is aspirational, you've got to make sure that you're comfortable. I mean, what if it rains? What if it's wet? All these kind of things. And good footwear, for example, really is important, actually. And weirdly, that's the one piece of your kit that doesn't have to be IC, but what are you going to... So, for example, I had this cloak made, and it was lovely, but it's purely aesthetic, right? It's not in any way protective against the rain, maybe a little bit against the rain and wind, but we're talking very light showers here. And I think there's a benefit just to sort of thinking about how are you going to be if you're cold? How good is your LARPing experience going to be if you're cold and you're wet? And you're not going to be that happy if you've got hypothermia. So I think those minimum player requirements are there to sort of protect you from that. Which way is this supposed to go? Is it that way and then round? I think it is. Okay, so I've made all of these tabs now. Now I'm going to see. I'm going to see if I can attach this piece to this piece. I'm expecting failure. Is this actually the right bit? It's supposed to be this bit. It is that bit. Yes, it is that bit. Okay. So I think I've got to bend all of these down for now, just to get them out of the way. I think you guys are probably going to tune in to like one of the longest, rambliest failures you've ever seen. I'm going to essentially have wasted everybody's time. Getting them to tune into like a dramatic thing that concludes with "that didn't work." But we'll see. To be fair, I did get to show off my armor, which I think does work. So I guess not all of it has been a failure, even if this bit fails. Okay. Let's peel that back. Unfortunately, I can't really show you this in great detail because I need to sort of wave it in front of my face. I think my camera position is not the best for that, but hopefully you guys get the idea when I'm able to show you after it's done, assuming it can even be done. Put a bit of energy into it. Oh, sorry about the noise. Okay, so that bit's attached. I'm not entirely sure which way it's supposed to go, but I think it will be essentially like this, with like then a front piece coming down. Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Still have to do the other side and then do some other aspects. But yeah, it's semi-works. So the template's just printed on A4. One of the people on, so Lloyd on chat's just asking about the process. So the template is printed off from Evil Ted's website. He has like two shapes. I think I showed this a bit earlier in the stream, but I'll show it again. So this will essentially make a helmet that looks like that. And you print it off from there. And it's free. And he does a different type of helmet as well if you want something a bit more dramatic. I'm going for a simple thing. And you just print that off on A4. It's essentially 6 sheets. That's including this sheet. All gets attached together. I haven't actually... It actually comes with this page as well, which is for the facial details, which essentially are... I don't know if you can actually see them. You see this slightly embossed areas of the faceplate. I'm not doing that. Mine's not going to have any of those aspects. Mine's literally just the shape. Going to be interested to see how this does. I think that might be actually like that. Yeah, so it's going to be like that. But then like this. Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together. Once this is all then done, you'll see it's obviously all got this kind of different types of stuff here. This is all going to get peeled off. That's then getting covered in leather, and I think that'll give it much more rigidity as well, and make it stronger and all of that good stuff. Right now, it's a bit shit, to be honest, but but we'll see what we can do. I think it's actually it's supposed to be like a superhero's helmet. I just went for it because it's the simplest pattern. It's going to look a lot like Magneto's helmet, but the idea is that I'm going to essentially, I think I'm going to add, I might even add lamlar plates to it. I'm thinking about doing maybe like a lamlar layer around here, so it sort of almost has a slightly Eurasian look to it, which is something I dig. I'm also thinking of maybe making it like slightly Elan, and have an area on the top that then goes down into like kind of horsehair like coming off the back. I think that might look pretty badass. That's something for a bit later. But I think in this first part, I just want to flesh out the basic build shape, and I think that's probably where we'll see how we go. But I think that might probably be where the video ends, when I get those kind of basic shapes knocked out. All right, so that bit, it seemed to attach like it's a thing. So I'll now do the other side. So just to clarify what I'm doing, if it's not clear, it's just sheets of this foam. This is actually the foam that I sent you the Amazon link to, Lloyd. And what this stuff's actually really good for, because it's thin, and it's thinner than the stuff I use for my lamlar plates, which is probably what I should have recommended you for those. Although I think this will still work for those. I don't know if you can. I'll see if you can see the difference in thickness. Probably not. There is a difference in thickness. But what this stuff's really good for, it's got a really nice kind of texture to it that's going to be very smooth, but also it's strong, and I think it's going to makes for quite nice kind of tape on the inside that kind of will hold it all together, and I think this will just make it comfortable. And bear in mind, I'll be wearing this. And one of the reasons I'm not carrying as much is because I'm wearing this on top of my orc mask, which I put on at the beginning. So that's going to go on top of all of this. So it's going to be removed from even my hair and everything like that. Although I have to say, like, this is not sticky. It's not sticking to me or anything like that. So Lloyd will get that. So yeah, I think it's going to work all right. Adding that panel's given me a lot of confidence, actually. Adding that panel's made me suddenly feel like this could actually work. So we'll carry on. So what I'm doing is just peeling these off. So I've just cut these strips that, again, are just the thickness of the roller piece. And I'm just attaching them to this inner part here. Probably doesn't show up very well. I apologise that black is not very good for actually showing things up, but I think, and then basically putting it in, and I'm just eyeballing this. I'm putting it in about, yeah, like there, that way. Yeah, I'm putting it in like, let's call that 1.5 centimeters. And then I'm kind of doing an overlap that hangs over the edge that's about the same. Meh, I don't know how that's going to work. It attached the other one, so hopefully it'll attach this one. The hilarious thing will be if I actually put this on, it rains, and the whole thing just comes apart or something. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing just turns out to be an absolute disaster. But as Lloyd said, it was cheap enough. Like, all the components for this, the pattern's free. The foam is, again, it's that £3 for 10 A4 sheets of the thick, shitty foam, then coated in like a few sheets of the stuff that I'm got from Amazon. I mean, and then just a bunch of off-cut sofa leather just stuck to the top of it. I mean, you know, if I'm complaining about the cost of that, Probably got to sort of get slightly different priorities. And the learning experience will sort of pay for itself, I think. And I kind of went into it expecting a degree of failure. I'm tempted to, once I've done this, make another one, make a better one. Because I think, you know, and this is the great thing. Like, even when I was making my Lamnar armor, my metal Lamnar armor, and when I was making my monstering armor, and now while I'm making this as well, like, just doing it, you just learn so much. And it's weird, because obviously you make it, and you don't really, you know, you make it because that's what you want to wear, right? You don't make it for the practice of making one. So you want it to be good. But the reality is, of course, that what you make is the worst. Is the worst example, basically, you'll ever have of you actually doing that thing, right? Like, I can guarantee the next time I do this, I'll do it better. But weirdly, I'm not. There's probably not going to be a next time, unless I decide there's going to be a next time. So maybe there'll be a next time. I don't know. Oh yeah. So Lloyd brought up the fact that he's made his Lamnar armor, which actually I think looks really nice. I think the tessellating pattern looks really nice. Out of a mixture of steel and brass. You should share maybe some of the patterns, the hexagonal pattern you made for that, because I think it looks really nice, by the way, dude. I think you could, but I know what you mean, right? You could certainly make that better, right? And now you've done it, I'm sure if you did it again, you could do it better. But I think that's just the nature of it, right? As I'm saying, like, yeah, it's not gonna be the best thing you've ever done the first time you do it, because it's the first time you're doing it. But when you're crafting something, generally speaking, you're crafting it to wear. But who knows? As I say, I might do another one of these. I don't really do commission work or anything. But if people want stuff made, I'm semi-tempted. But we'll see. I think, to be honest with you, as well, like, the reality is, if you wanted me to make you something, and because all the stuff I make is kind of rough and ready and stuff, I think the amount I would charge you for the man hours that I would spend to do it, you may as well go and buy a proper suit or buy something from somebody more skilled than me. I think that's roughly how I would sit on it. So I kind of would do stuff, but I think I'm probably not the best person to do stuff. So I would recommend you don't ask me to do stuff, if that makes sense. And a lot of this is hopefully making it with the idea that it's so easy, in a sense, and cheap, hopefully, that you can come do it yourselves. Right. Did I cut myself another strip? Okay, so I need to cut myself another strip. I'm sorry if this is really boring, by the way, guys. I'm not a natural Twitcher person, probably. But yeah, I think Something I would quite like to do is put together a bunch of patterns for the different plates that you could possibly, a bunch of different plates, and maybe, like the D plates I have, because I think obviously because I've got the books that give me all the measurements for them and stuff, which actually is surprisingly hard to find good examples of that. People just say, "I'll buy the plates," or whatever. But like, actually, like making them, I think it might be useful to do like a little resource of different plate styles, historical plates and otherwise. I think that might be quite good fun. So that's something I've been thinking about. But I've got so many things. Like, bear in mind, I'm probably supposed to be doing this the next history episode for the podcast, which is a big thing. So apologies that's not gone as quickly as maybe I'd wanted it to, by the way. Let's get that attached. There. It's not nice, that book. It's funny, serendipitous how like an off-cut can sometimes, you kind of think, why not just use an off-cut from a previous piece. That'll work here. Where am I? Okay, so I've got, again, all the tabs are done. Oh gosh. All the tabs are done. So these now all need to be bent in. So I can... And I'm literally just bending this with my hands and just accepting the stickiness. It's fairly forgiving. Just bending it in. Cool. And let's get this attached. So the pan comes with like registration marks, which I mentioned a bit earlier, probably before some of you joined, and they're really important because they, I don't know if you can see these little dints that are in it, and the idea is that when they bend, they'll help you line up how pieces attach together. Sorry. They'll help you line up how pieces attach together. They kind of basically, you don't cut those. They're just places where you mark. So you draw an outline and then you just mark in where these things are and you don't cut there. But they help you basically, when you're doing the rolling motion to attach it all together, they help you line it all up. Yes, I did. I did varnish my armour. Phil's asking about my steel armour and if I varnished it after I painted it. I did, although to be honest with you, that did not have a lot of impact on it in the end. So it still chips, and it still occasionally shows the white that's underneath it, which I think if I was doing that again, I would have sprayed it black underneath. And I don't know why I sprayed it white underneath. I think black would have just looked better, because now it just looks like there's maybe sort of bits of bird poo on my armor occasionally. But you know, it is what it is. So I guess it's going to be interesting. Okay. Tempted afterwards to maybe craft in a bit more here. We'll see. I guess it's going to sit a bit strange, but hello. Yeah. I think it's important to notice as well, as I said, this pattern is really designed to be used on high dense foam that is heat gunned. So what I'm doing is that right now it's all just being held together under tension, which is obviously going to be reinforced once the lever's on it. And then I think I'm going to maybe go around with some thread and sort of actually strengthen it a little bit that way. I might even do, I was thinking of doing like a brass line that maybe goes down sort of the sort of central rim and then maybe horizontally across as well. I'm not sure. Yeah. It's coming together. So the next bit after that then are these side pieces, which, how do they go? So you, I think they are like, that's a really good question. Let's have a look at the pattern. So they actually have instructions written on them, by the way. I should say that. And the main page has basic instructions on it as well. Oh, 1 second. I think I hear the phone. I'm just going to go grab that. Okay, sorry about that. Back. Yeah, that was just a random telecell. Weird. Wouldn't think telecells were still a thing. Okay, so yeah, I can see how I could have improved this. I think the leather covering will forgive a lot of my sins here in the early construction, I'm hoping. So, that done. So did I fuck it up? Is this the piece that was... No, it wasn't good. It wasn't that either. No, good. So then it's maybe around here, I think. Oh, okay. So it's like that. Yes. Okay. So the next ping is going to be to attach these pieces, which will give it that sort of. Gosh, my dyslexia really struggles with like mirrors and cameras and stuff. But yeah, which will give it that sort of shape. Just bending it in just to try and give it some memory of where I want it to actually be. So I think I am. I think just from watching the way this moves, I think it naturally wants to pull itself back together again, which isn't a problem. It's not tight or anything like that. So maybe that's good to help it grip. But I think... I think I might use a bit of metal bracing in some way. So, thought I heard the doorbell. Let's all go here at the moment. Oh, 1 second, guys. Hey guys, I'm just going to take a bit of a break and have some tea and some other sort of munchables with the wife. So I'll leave the stream running, I guess, if you guys don't mind just staring randomly at my thing here. So I don't know if there's a way to be like... Oh, there you go. There's a magic be right back button. So yeah, I'll let this play out. I'll be back on a bit later. All right, peace. Hello! Hello, I'm back. So, I had a nice tasty Larp Noobs sanctioned cup of tea. That was very good. And I had a turkey and lingonberry sandwich. Very, very good. And I've got myself a tasty Italian beverage. So that's going to be very good, of the lemony variety. So that'll be nice and refreshing. So yeah, recap on where we were. Building a helmet using the pattern provided by Evil Ted's, which kind of looks like Magneto's helmet, but we're going to customize that a bit. And that's to go and be worn on top of my Orc mask, which is really motivated by the fact that I wear glasses and I want to protect them a bit better, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out. All of this is expecting failure and not being that worried if it fails. We'll see. I think this was supposed to be recording. I'm not sure if it is actually recording it, but we'll see. If this is recording. Oh, hey, Ben. So yeah, if this is recording, hopefully it'll go up at some point. For those of you who've missed it, who won't be here. Anyway, you know what I mean. So yeah, next step is attaching this to this. So again, I'm going to do that by how would I know, Ben? How would I know? So I'm going to do this by attaching some tabs along the rim here. And again, that's just going to be the same thing, using that sort of self-adhesive foam. And then that's going to let me attach this piece, which is kind of hard to show off really at this point because it hasn't got its full structural integrity yet. That always makes me think of Star Trek when I say structural integrity. They're always obsessed with the fact that the structural integrity is going to fail. But that's going to basically make that kind of effect. Sort of like that's going to be basically the cheek and mandible sort of section, in theory. We're going to see. Right, so to do this, it's just more of what I was doing. Essentially, I'm taking this very thin self-adhesive foam, which is essentially, let's be generous and call it a mil thick. And then I'm just scoring out something that's a ruler's width, and going to cut that into strips, and then I'm going to sort of basically layer strips along the inside edge here. So, oh no. So I think the goal for this, at this point, is probably going to be taking it to the stage where I've got it all foam built out. Might not have time to do the leather today. I think, because I should probably do some actual work at some point. Talking about work, I work as a librarian in a map department, and I've been tasked with taking home a whole bunch of postcards, which I kind of, as Ben will know, I kind of grumbled around when it actually happened because I just got stack loads of them. But actually, it's been really nice peaceful job to do. And they're basically these old vintage postcards. Yeah, super cool. Like loads of really interesting kind of stories hidden in there. Yeah, it's been really nice to do. Ha! So Dave just said that he's uploaded his video. Yeah, I'll have to take a watch of that. I wonder if I can watch that live on stream. I wonder if that's a thing. That'd be interesting. Not sure if I'll get any volume actually while I've got the mic plugged in. Yeah, that might be a thing. Yeah, you guys are getting probably the volume, but I'm not getting a volume. I don't know how to fix that. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that. I really want to take a listen. Yeah, I'll watch it in a bit, Dave, because I really do want to see that. But yeah, so yeah, so I'm going to see if I can attach this part of the helmet together. I'm sorry if this is super boring, by the way, guys. Like, but we can just all sort of sit here and chill, and I think that's part of the fun. So I'm just kind of eyeballing a lot of this. I don't think there's any need to be too precious. I think you can kind of over measure everything, which is probably not true. That is an immediate Ian lie, probably. But I'm going to pretend it's true and justify my own decision not to overly measure things. I said earlier, I think this is the kind of thing where I can already see a bunch of ways I would have improved all of this if I was doing it again. I think... I don't know if I would have gone for this inner core of the 3mm cheap foam. I don't know if I would have done that. I think maybe I would have gone straight onto this thin foam, and I think actually, although that would have made it quite flimsy, I think when the leather's added, that's already going to make it quite strong. We'll see. That's just a hunch. But although I do like the idea of it being quite a chunky beast once it's done, like, and that's going to add that kind of monstery element to it. So maybe all that'll pan off. But I think it has made it a bit more of a challenging build as a result, because that sort of foam isn't as... It has like a sort of elasticity to it that wants it to pull itself together. That maybe doesn't lend perfectly to this. How are the sound levels, guys? Is it still all good? Because I nipped off for a cheeky cup of Larp Noobs tea. And awesome, thanks, Benno. Yeah, I've got actually, there's a really cool sort of YouTube thing, which is just like a continuous stream. It's called Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio, Beats to Relax / Study To. And I've just sort of taken quite a bit to having that in the background while I craft, which isn't my normal fare. Normally, I'm a very much an epic music man, as the guys will know. I dig my kind of movie soundtracks, but more specifically, kind of video game soundtracks. I really got into the Stellaris soundtrack again fairly recently. There's just some beastie tracks on that. Just so, I don't know, like it has this kind of the Stellaris soundtrack, which Stellaris is like a 4X strategy game developed by Paradox, and they're really cool. CK2's got some good stuff, as Ben says as well. But what I like about the Stellaris one, although it's not really on theme for this, what I like about the Stellaris one, I'm talking with a bit of flappy stuff attached to my thumb, but I'm going to continue anyway with a politician's point with a flappy bit of stuff. This is I suppose this is coronavirus safe. This stops me like touching my own face. But anyway, so what the fuck am I saying? I'm going mad. Anyway, the cool thing about the Stellaris, the cool thing about the Stellaris one, it's just got these kind of soundtracks that are like super inspiring. Like the Crusader Kings 2 one has these soundtracks that, no joke, make you just want to go off with a massive army and like conquer the hell out of things, which is awesome. But what I love about the Stellaris one, concentrate on this one. What I love about the Stellaris one is it has. God, that was funny. It has these tracks that are just kind of. They kind of give me this feeling of like this idea of like progress, like civilizational progress, in a way that I think it's kind of like that almost has like great promise. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like a technological utopia or something coming together, and just the idea of like, we can do it. We can reach for the stars and achieve the things. And I really dig it. I really, really dig it. So that's been a big thing that I often listen to. God, I've got a bit of a tear in my eye. Yeah, and then of course I always fall back on classics when it comes to movie soundtracks, like the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. Conan the Barbarian being a favourite movie of mine. And on a real weird tangent, if you were there's a YouTube channel to watch. If there's a thing that Dave got me into, which is called Bardic Unboxings, and he does these unboxings of nerd statues, basically. But like, the ones he does where he talks about Conan and sort of barbarian heroes and stuff, I don't know, actually really interesting. Like in a totally nerdy, probably not interesting to anybody else kind of way. Yeah, I highly recommend Bardic Unboxings, just for a good little cheeky laugh. That was it, Bardic Broadcasts, that's it, Dave. Sorry, not Bardic Unboxings. Although I'm sure you'll find it if you type input. Anyway. The algorithm will save the day and then take over your souls. Yeah, so I really dig Conan the Barbarian, and the music for that has always been a favourite of mine. I shall apply a judicial use of force to attach this together. So that's one half of that done. Whoop. As I say, once all this is together, I think I've got a lot more hope that it's actually going to have the strength to hold itself together. I'm pretty sure. I'm mildly confident. It's actually quite comfortable. This kind of 1mm foam has this, it has this kind of nice inner texture to it, which, despite how messy that probably looks inside, that's actually, it's actually quite comfortable. I think it's going to look a little bit Magneto-y when it's finished, but I think I'm going to spec it out a little bit. That'll sort of hopefully cure a bit of that sort of aspect of the build. This peak at the front, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I think that's maybe a little bit either not enough or too much. I'm not sure. And this kind of wing here, yeah, I like the, and it's going to look like Magneto's helmet, but we're going to do something. Maybe, I think a nice bit of brass will really bring this up once. I'm staring into my own soul. Yeah, I think this is going to be like pretty cool. Like, actually, like, it's one of these things that probably to you guys, I mean, this just looks like the biggest lump of crap you've ever seen. But like, as I'm building it, I'm getting this feeling that it's actually all going to pull together quite nicely. I think it might work. I think it's one of these things that each piece you add adds that element of structural sort of integrity again. That will sort of help the whole process. So again, exactly the same again. Going to be walking around with these tabs around the outside rim of that other section now. The other crazy thing about this process, I doubt any of you will actually want to make yourself one of these. It's not proper, but it gives you an idea of what you can do. As I say, this build, and I think I've mentioned this a few times, this build's really designed to be done with high dense foam, and I recommend looking up the if you just type in Evil Ted helmet build. There's a really good video that actually shows. Have a good one, Ben. Strength and honor, man. That shows the process. Of doing this, and I think you'll see there that it's really just done using high dense foam and a heat gun, while this is essentially taking that same idea and the same pattern, literally the same pattern, as I said, free to download. You just go onto his website and get yourself it. And yeah, so just cut this a little bit here. It's pushing me off. Yeah, go onto his website and you'll be able to get it there. But I think with this approach, obviously sort of stepping slightly outside the original intent of the build, of his build, but I think it's going to work. Yeah. Tell you what, the other soundtrack, to going back on a tangent I was on previously that I really got into. Ooh, I need some more foam, so hold that thought. And while I hold that thought, I'm going to crack open my can of San Pellegrino Limonata. Blammo. So refreshing. don't know why I did that like an advert, but there you go. So yeah, they just come as like these A4 sheets like this. Just set that aside. And they have just quite a nice texture quality to them that I quite like. As I say, if you were trying to do like the lamlar plates like I showed earlier, I would still recommend going for that Hobbycraft. How many mils is that? I've got a ruler. Sort of 2 mil thick self-adhesive foam. Oh, something just collapsed behind the off camera. Sorry about that. So I think I would still go for that. But this stuff works just nicely as like a lining material, and that self-adhesive aspect saves a lot of hassle. You could do this, as I said, like cheaper, just buy the foam, use spray mount or something like that, and I think it will work just fine. But I think the lazy aspect of just having and just saves you that bit of time, I think works just fine. Yeah, the only sad thing about doing this, because as I said, we talk about soundtracks and stuff, like normally I would be doing this with those chill beats that you guys are all listening to. I'd be listening to them. Unfortunately, because of the setup that I have, probably there may be a better way of doing this. I don't know. I am not a Twitch streamy person, but there might be a way where I can listen to it too. But sadly, I'm not getting those super chill beats, so I'm literally just a dude in his study sticking bits of foam onto a foam helmet. I'm hopeful as well that I have no idea where the recordings for this go. So hopefully they go somewhere it's possible for you guys to watch them. Because otherwise, I've essentially just talked to my friends, which is very nice, while building this, and done it in a sort of a presentation-y kind of way. Just to them, which is kind of a bit weird if it's just sort of presenting crafting to your friends, which is fine, but it would be nice if it has actually recorded properly so you guys can see this at a later date and, I don't know, maybe tell me how flawed all of my planning is here and my execution, which I have no doubt you'll be correct about. So I think a lot of the strength, by the way, because you see how it's bending in right now? I think a lot of strength is going to come from that second piece that gets joined onto the back here. I think that's going to push it out like that. Well, that's what I'm hoping. And if not, this is elastic enough and forgiving enough that I think it's going to actually be pressable. You'll be able to press it into shape enough that it will kind of be forgiving. So I don't mind that it squashes in a little bit. And if you think about a lot of leather helmets, I'm thinking more particularly of like those kind of lacrosse style helmets and other sort of early leather sporting helmets and things like that. I think lacrosse uses it. I don't know. But those kind of sporting helmets, they have that kind of squishy quality anyway. I think that's just a natural aspect of the material and how it stands. See, it's not metal. It's not rigid. It has flex, and that's cool. Why am I putting this on in this hand position? I don't think that's wise at all. Never mind. The lighting I have, it's not the best, to be honest. I've got like lights above me, actually a light just off camera, just there. that's shining at me, and then I've got obviously the light from behind, but it actually means that I don't have, maybe it provides slightly better quality for the camera, but I have slightly worse quality in terms of what I can actually see and how my own shadows cast on my work, and especially when you're doing black on black like this. Not always the best. But yeah, the soundtracks and stuff. I also really have been enjoying the God of War, the new God of War game. The soundtrack for that. There's some nice tracks. What a great game. What a great game that was. And that's as someone who's not even played it. But I basically watched it like a movie, just stringing together. And this is something that you can do. A lot of computer games actually, people have made like playthroughs, which are essentially like all the cinematics, and they've actually played through the game in a sort of a cinematic way. Like Batman Arkham Asylum, all that kind of stuff's has been done in a similar way as well, where they kind of essentially just give you the story beats, right? That's really cool. It's kind of like you get like a 3-hour movie version of the game, which is really good for those console games, because as a PC gamer and as someone who just basically can't afford a console on top of all of the PC-ness, yeah, so it makes actually all of those things watchable. Again, using your fabric scissors for a job like this is dumb, but I've been doing it for a while now, so I started so I'll finish, as the old saying goes. So I should actually show you. So while I'm actually putting this in, I'm actually folding these tabs. Sorry, while I'm putting this in and attaching it all together again, I'm going to apologise for it being black on black because it does not make this very visible. I'm pushing these tabs in a little bit to give me space and the time to sort of push it all together, because it's not always easy. Fortunately, the material is very forgiving. And it really allows you to sort of pull it and shape and conform it. Okay. So okay. So it's not finished, but I don't know. Does that look any good? I can't even see myself. But yeah, it's kind of coming together. I think basically once this bit, you see how it's sharp at the back here? When that is pushed more like this, which is the next bit I'm going to do, to a curve, that brings everything out. So it's kind of, I'm going to brace that with more of that foam, so that will be the first way of doing it. But that won't be enough, because if I just hold that, you can see it still naturally wants to pull. So I think this is going to be reinforced further by the lever once all that's put on. And keep in mind, all this stuff you're seeing on the outside, this is essentially covering for the self-adhesive side. So all of this is going to get peeled off, and lever is going to get attached to all these surfaces in kind of like a patchwork quilt kind of way, almost like, or just like lots of patches. That's my visualization of it. But first off, let's straighten this bit out. I think it's going to look all right. As I say, each time I put a piece on, I get more confident about the build. And there's probably a reason people haven't built stuff like this, or I haven't seen examples of people building stuff like this. Probably because it's just not very smart. But at the same time, I feel like it's going to work. And it might be not pioneering, but certainly working something out together here. Okay. I just need another bit. Oh, lovely. I love it. I think when you've got an offcut, it's a real crafter's joy when you have an offcut that just magically sort of fits into a space that you need. So I have this. See where that bit of light is? I'm passing my hand past. The space there actually turns out to be exactly the width of this. Mwah. Perfect. Crafter's joy. I don't know, something like it was meant to be about that. Again, this is black on black, so it's hard to see. But the other cool thing about this material is it does actually show up marks. So you don't feel like you're not going to be able to register any of this stuff. And registering your stuff is always really useful. So you're still going to be able to make it clear to yourself, even if I can't make it clear to you, where your markings are, so you can actually piece things together. And as I was saying about my armor earlier, this isn't a complicated build, right? And it might look fiddly, and I would definitely agree with you that it is fiddly. But it's not a difficult thing to make. This is certainly a fairly simple build. Now, I think I'm going to do one more. Again, serendipitous. This stripper I have remaining is exactly the right length for what I need. I think I'm going to just use that. I'm going to use that just to strengthen up another bit of the bond here at the back, because I think this is where a lot of the tension of the piece is. So let's peel that free. No, fingers, more fingers and thumbs. Or all thumbs. I don't know. suppose it's been hard to show that off, but obviously once you push the thing down, you want to just run over it, run over each edge of the foam after you push it down with your fingers, just to make sure that it's all pushed down. And this foam is actually, the thing about it is very forgiving and very malleable. You can actually stretch and push and pull this in a whole bunch of ways. So you see that's added a little bit more of a curve to the back. It's not as sharp as it was before, but it's still sharper than I would want. But I think, yes, it wears a lot better on the head now. And I think you can probably see that it gives me that protection, or almost that protection, well, it's certainly a lot more, that I wanted for my glasses, to sort of protect it from getting carried off my head. So I'm going to try it on with the orc mask, and we're going to see how that's going to be, just so I get a feel for actually how this build's going to all work together. Okay. But I don't know how good that looks. Sadly, I can't really... So the orc mask, it looks like that pushes... sorry if my voice is a bit funny, by the way. It might just be my hearing as a result of wearing the helmet. Probably just my hearing. So the orc mask pushes my glasses forward. But the cool thing about this is now I can... Again, if I take this off. So my glasses are actually hooked behind the orc's ears. So they actually don't go anywhere anyway, right? I can tug it quite a lot. But then with this now on, I think this is going to work pretty well. I think like that's going to give me a lot more protection around the head. It feels nice and tight. It feels like it's not going anywhere. It's got the right amount of friction, right? Where I can still take it off, but any kind of hit coming in, right, isn't gonna, even if I got hit on the back, right, even if someone swept underneath, it's not going to come off immediately. So I think that's going to give me largely the protection I want. I'm not sure about the shape. I think I need to have a look actually at a few pictures. So unfortunately, because of my camera placement, I can't see what you guys can probably see. So that is something I need to maybe do. But I think you can see that the basic build premise is, I think, going to work quite well. It's going to give me the opportunity to protect my glasses. You know, I quite like this. Kind of covers quite well the parts of my glasses that I'm worried about. Also, now they're not going to go anywhere. It's going to be very hard. Even if you sweep underneath, it's very hard. You would displace my glasses, but you wouldn't rip them off my head, because you're not going to have that up motion. It's not going anywhere. That forward motion, you could... So the only thing is if you swept the sword this way and you pulled, that's as far as my glasses now go, which means that it's going to move my face, but it's not going to carry them off my face, which is obviously the main concern. So yeah, I think, as stupid as this probably looks, this can be sort of tailored to actually make quite a nice helmet. And bearing in mind the cost of all of this, I think this is a pretty good build. I think this is actually something for a noob like me, is actually something very achievable, very cheap, that really just takes time. This, again, a massive thanks to eviltedsmith.com and this pattern. This is entirely free. You just go onto his website and download it. and then you can sort of piece this together yourself. And it's so simple. I mean, bear in mind the last page that comes with this face trim stuff, which is to basically do the Magneto style details around the outside. I've not done that. I've literally gone for the 3 pieces, and the pattern comes. You have to stick the pattern together, bear in mind. So there is a bit of work to do that. But the pattern comes in pieces that you then attach together. I've attached. I laminated mine essentially using sellotape. So some nice thick sellotape, front and back. Okay, stuck it all together. That's given me like a really nice sort of template. Like I could just reuse this again, like this, and the same with all 3 pieces. And there's only 3 pieces that make up this whole helmet. Okay, so you've got your main piece. So this is the top here. Okay. Then you've got these side pieces. Okay, you saw me putting those together. Okay, they sort of pinch together at this point. And that's this piece here, this kind of side piece here. And then you've got these curved sections here. Okay, and that's what is kind of these mandible areas here that cover the side and of the face and give you kind of the edging here. Now I think there are some things I want to do. I think the shape could definitely be refined. I think, you know, that this is really an entry-level thing. Oh, you can still have a drink. This is an entry-level helmet, obviously, in helmet shape. But I think the cool thing with this pattern is now you kind of see how it goes. I mean, I've sort of learned a lot by making this. And by the way, I feel very comfortable in this. I mean, like, I've talked to you guys for a while now. I think, like, you know, it's not hot. You know, it feels nice on the face. It's not heavy. It doesn't itch. None of that. I think this is going to be quite easy to adapt and to make alternate shapes out of. And I think that's something he says in his video as well. So I think you're going to really be able to sort of put something together and sort of customize it for your sort of tastes. So this is all for me going to get covered in leather. This is then going to maybe have some kind of leather plates like that, maybe going up the rim. Either that, or I think maybe brass. I think maybe brass going up the central piece here would look kind of pretty sweet. And then maybe here as well. I quite like that. So it comes over the top and then comes around here. I think that might look quite nice. Obviously, stuff like that's a bit more complicated, but not really, right? Because you kind of build this stuff up. So that's the thing. So I've done this, which is really super simple, right? Really super simple to make, ultimately, right? And it really, right now, it doesn't look like a lot. But this will really sort of forgive itself, I think. Once that leather's attached, once all these sticky pieces are removed, it's really going to actually have a lot more strength than it has right now. So I think I'll probably end the stream there. Maybe come back a little bit later. But I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think as a little project, this, you know what I mean? You can't really argue, right? I think it's actually turned out all right as part 1. Yeah, nice work. Oh, hey, double-fisted monkey. That's what an awesome name. Yeah, hope you like it. Yeah, I think like together, so it's going to be like this. This is all going to get covered in leather with the alt mask, the glasses, and then the armor. So I don't know if you can see. So that's the back plate of the armor. Which is lamellar. And this is made, I described this in the first bit of the video before my camera went down. This is made really easily just using leather offcuts and sticky back self-adhesive foam that I just got from Hobbycraft. I'm still wearing my alt mask. I should probably take that off. Oh, hello. Yeah, so I think that's gonna work really well. So that's the front, and I think that has a really nice quality to it. Like, you won't be able to tell that that's actually mainly foam, but with a nice kind of leather top. I like the way the light moves off it, and I think because actually you can't really tell very easily, but a lot of these leather plates are actually, because they're all sort of sofa leather offcuts from all kinds of different brown leather sofas. They actually have these slightly different textures and different qualities that I think when they're all combined together have a really nice kind of look to them. So there's going to be that. And then you've got the shoulders that are like this. So that will help join the front and the back together. Then it'll be belt blanks probably, or I'm not sure. The trimming around the edging of the leather armour here. Don't know if you can see that. The trimming around the edge here. The way I've done that previously on my metal armour, which I have here. So the way I've done that, there. So this is my metal lamellar armour, and the way I've done the trimming around that is essentially just using leather belt blanks. Will I do the same on this? I quite like it being light, and I quite like it being soft. So I'm not sure actually. I think I might just go for either a soft fabric or just some layering of the leather offcuts and actually doing it that way. It really will come down to the texture and colours that I want. And I think that's the cool thing, that I can kind of piece it together as I go, and each part has its own sort of step-by-step process that I can kind of, what comes next? What comes next for this? I don't know. But that's something I'll discover. So yeah, I hope this has been in some way enjoyable, or at least a diversion or a distraction, or anything. Anything in any kind of way that is of any use to anyone at any time. But yeah, I hope you had a good time. So got that. I'm quite pleased with it. Yeah. All right. Well, have an awesome day, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in and watching. If you enjoyed it, then leave me some comments or something. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point with monstering and stuff. So I wanted it to have this kind of slightly rougher look to it. But as I've been making it, it's also sort of occurred to me that while it was meant for monstering, I think it'll age itself, and that's the other thing. I think it will age itself quite nicely. But I think it's also got potential as like a reserve piece of kit for another character that may pop up should Talis die. Hopefully Talis won't die, but he's the kind of guy who certainly could die or be killed. And yeah, so I think at that point it might work quite well as a secondary character piece of kit. And I like the concept I have for my next character is someone who is maybe a little bit less fancy than Talis. The kind of person who isn't going to be walking around with like trim like this all over their clothes. Which, by the way, while I've got you here, sorry, I was going to go, but actually, it's a really nice thing. So these are actually for saris, and you can get these really nice sort of fabric trims. This is 4 meters long. And I think it's beautiful, and it's very, very Talis, and it looks really nice. And then I've also got, I won't get this one out, but there's another one there. Look at that. That's lovely. Wasn't that expensive as well, Yeah, so that's not going to be for my coat. That's going to be for my sash, which at the moment has a bit of a crappy trim to it. But this is like the sash thing that I wear. So this is actually carpet fabric, which I've just folded over on itself. And then the trim is actually from the works, and they just do these kind of rolls of like several meter long trim. I think it looked all right when I first put it on, but now because I got these iron-on, bring those closer up. They look quite nice actually. These kind of iron-on embroidered metallic patches of like thistles. They don't have thorns and things that I could really find, but I thought these looked actually really nice. And like worn on the body, this looks quite nice. I've got some pictures. I'll maybe post them up at some point. Yeah, I think it actually looks really nice worn. And the way it hangs, I think, looks quite cool. But I think when I take this, and if say I add trimming like this to it, I think that might be quite nice. Although I may be thinking this one. I am going to get it out now. You got me on a tangent. I can't help myself. So I think maybe that. I think that looks really nice. You know, very fancy, very Talis, very much. Please don't kill me, but I'm going to get killed. But I think that's going to look really nice together. The golds, the greens. You know, adding a touch of class to Navarre. Best nation by far, if you didn't know. Yeah, I think that's going to look really nice. I think that is going to look really good. So that's the next one of the things I want to do. You mentioned my coat, and I can't resist, so I'm going to get that out. So from Charles, I got this beautiful coat. I just got a low storage space warning, so I'll really have to end it soon. But this is a really lovely, rich fabric sort of coat, which again, I'll put some pictures up at some point, but it's super nice, so lovely. Charles stuff is incredible. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and watching this. It's been a lot of fun, actually. And it's great fun interacting with you guys and hopefully showing you some of the stuff as I bodge my way through it. The clue's in the title. Talis crafts badly. And yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? We learn by doing. All right. Strength and honor, guys.